This is the screencast for Lesson 30 in Stephen C# 24-Hour Trainer. This lesson talks about various classes that you can use to manipulate the file system. And in this example, we're going to search a directory hierarchy to see if we can find files that match a certain pattern and contain a target string. Here's the application I've built so far. It basically is a user interface. If we go into the search buttons event handler, you can see that there's no code here yet. Up at the top, we have a using system.io directive so that we can use the files in the system.io namespace. So the first thing we're going to do here is get the pattern and target values the user selected. They'll pick a pattern from this combo box, or they might type one in, and then this is going to be the target string we're going to search for. So I'm going to say string pattern equals pattern combo box.text, and string target equals target text box.text, and I'm going to convert this to lowercase with the toLower method. That way, if the file contains the target but in the wrong case, we'll still find it. Next, what we need to do is create a directory info object to represent this directory, the start directory that the user enters. So I'm going to say directory info equals new directory info, and here I'm going to give it the path to the directory, which is in the directory text box. Next, we're going to use the directory info object's getFiles method to get a list of the files that match our pattern, and we're going to loop over them. So I'm going to say for each, the objects that the getFiles method returns are FileInfo objects. So I want to use a FileInfo object to loop over them. So for each FileInfo in dirinfo.getFiles, and here there are a couple of overloaded versions. This one gets all the files, this one matches a search pattern, and this one lets us use a search option, so we're going to use that version. So I'm going to pass in the pattern that we're looking for, and then for the search option, I'm going to use a search option dot all directories. That makes this method search all of the directories in the directory hierarchy starting at this directory, not just the top level directory. Let me break this line so it's easier to read. Okay, so now we have a FileInfo object that gives us information about this file. We need to see if that file contains our target string. Well, first let's check and see if there is a target string. If there isn't one, we don't need to perform the check. So let's say if target.length is greater than 0, then we're going to check, else we won't bother. So here we need to check. So see if the file contains the target. To do that, I'm going to read the file's text all at once into a string and then just see if it contains this the target string. So I'm going to say string contents equals, I'm going to use the file class's read all text method, and I need to pass in the name of the file. Well, I already have a FileInfo object here, so I'm going to use it. FileInfo lowercase FileInfo dot the name of the thing, full name. And then now I'm going to see if the target string is in this thing. So I'm going to say if contents.contains target, then finally I want to add this file to my list box. So file listbox.items.add, and here you can decide what you want to add, whether you want to add the full file name or just the beginning part of the name. I'm just going to add the beginning part of the name. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to empty out the list box before we started, so I'm going to just go back up here and do that right at the top. So file listbox.items.clear. So that way the list box will start out empty. Okay, so that takes care of this situation. If the target length is greater than 0, we go ahead and we see if the target is in the file. If it's not greater than 0, then we don't need to check for a target string. We simply add the file to the list box. So let's run the program and see what we get. I didn't show you, but in the forms load event handler, it initializes this directory to be the directory that the program is currently running in. Initially, this is searching for all files and search for, I'm not going to put a target string, we'll just click search. And there it's grabbed all of the files that are in this directory. If I step up a couple of levels, this is the source directory and search. You can see we get a lot more files. We get the executable files, various object files, plus the actual source code, like there's the forms code file, there's the forms designer generated file, and so on. If I add a search string like load and search, we get nothing. I guess that's too specific. Let's try void. That should be in there. So now we've found files that contain the string void. I can further restrict this. Let's go back and get rid of the target. I can restrict the pattern to just CS files, and I get a list of just them. And then if I add this void again, we'll get only the .cs files that have that pattern in them. So the directory info objects get files method right there is pretty useful if you want to search a directory or a directory hierarchy for something, for either patterns that, files that match a pattern, files that contain a substring, or you could even do things like get all of the files, ignoring the pattern, and then look for things like files that have a certain creation date or that have been modified recently, things like that.